Sunday now come.
Sunday is here. And one of the good things about Sunday is that you get to have Sunday scoops. And so welcome to another episode in this here reggae month. Where's Sir Richie? You ready for the month?
Always
ready for you.
Listen, the born ready, man. One thing you know with once February roll in is, apart from it being reggae month, February is almost like the birthday of reggae, the birth month for reggae.
Brethren, don't even begin to list the names. But let me list them for you.
No, let's just this one name today, right? We know what
No, you can't list this. There's at least 4 headliners that you have to
All right,
list.
go on.
Bob Marley,
Robert Nesta Marley,
Bunny Ruggs,
Dennis
Harriet,
Emmanuel Brown, and Derek.
Dennis Brown, an honorable mention, Horace Andy.
No, I know honorable mention. Horace Andy, they
All right, so you see, me tell you, so you can't name
but
one.
me did only want to name one.
No, Bridget, you can't make the month about one person.
No, it's not that the month is about one person. It is that, in terms of the value of his contribution to the music. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the most important figure as far as reggae music is concerned in Jamaica, Robert Nesta Marley.
And I'll agree with you. And I can even back up that with, I played at an event yesterday and I had to give a brief history of Jamaican music. And there were 2 American women. Both of them, one was a judge, the other one was her sister. And they swore that reggae music started with Bob Marley until I made my little expose on Jamaican music. And then they realized that it goes way deeper than the average person. Well, the average person on the planet, when them hear Jamaica, apart from Usain Bolt and Yaman or Irie, the first word out of the name is Bob Marley.
So Robert Nesta Marley is the most consequential person with respect to the development of the music and the broad spread of the music around the globe. No other artist or coming out of Jamaica has had the impact that he has had on music, culture, and the world. And something we need to keep in mind. Marley epitomizes, because in take the Rasta culture, when police at Jamaica, soldier, and the government want to eradicate Rasta, and even against that background. So I have to give him flowers. Full, don't make a cheap read,
Because
full
it's
flowers.
posthumous, you have to give him some serious.
And so
flowers.
today we're gonna be graced with the presence again. Actually, it's part 2 of a program we did. We started a couple of weeks ago with Copeland Forbes, who, in my opinion, again, one of the most consequential persons in the history of Jamaica music is Copeland Forbes. And Copeland
baseball hat.
Yes, Copeland is the author of Reggae My Life Is, and here he is with all smiles as usual.
Show the people in the book, man. You have face to yourself like you alone want to say.
But here is the book.
Exactly, Bridget. So
Reggae My Life. Why I say, the man have a copy of himself and refuse.
My pocket not a vault. Now come back up. Not even for read it. Now read the PDF version.
He said that he want Copeland sign it so that him have.
I never want a crease on the cover and the sign.
Copeland man turn the book into a collector's item. Right? So you know what that means. But welcome, Copeland.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored again to be here on Sunday Scoop. This is the only scoop you can get on a Sunday if you don't have no Saturday soup.
Unless I buy some ice cream.
But you said something earlier which resonated with me, about Rastafari. And if you notice, when Bob Marley starts his concert, he always starts with Rastaman vibration. So when he's touring, he travels with that, that kind of vibe with him. So he opens up his show with Rastaman vibration. The only time never opened it with Rastaman vibration was when he was opening for the Commodores and he didn't get the sound check. Some use Natural Mystic as the sound check song before I'm clicking to it, and so on, So it's a great vibration in February here. You could call it Bob Marley month, but there's so many people, as you said, who are celebrating this month. And I'm honored and privileged that I worked with almost every one of them.
Absolutely.
Celebrating Earthstrong this February.
Well, today we're gonna focus more because you were with us a couple of weeks ago, Copeland, and the listeners, the viewers wouldn't let go. They insisted that we do a second show because and it made sense because clearly the stuff that we were talking about when we last week couldn't have been done 2 weeks ago. We couldn't do that in one show. So we are here to continue the conversation with Copeland Forbes around Reggae My Life Is. Now, Copeland, you are described by most who have spoken to you in the international media community as the most consequential person in with respect to Jamaica's music. And I will say to you that I share the view. Not a lot of the people who write about Jamaica music have been involved with the music to the extent that you have. In fact, most of them haven't. And so you were there from the inception. And now this week being Reggae Month, and this month being Reggae Month, the Tuesday is the 79th anniversary of Bob's birth. And in another week and a half, the opening of the One Love movie. We want to focus a little bit on the time you spent with the Wailers. Okay. I know you've been bombarded with a whole slew of questions and probes from all over the place as to your own role with the Wailers. I see some man try to get you in all kind of contention. You know, if Copeland can't bat the man, only when we can. So you have to start to keep a straight back. Certain questions, you leave them up. If it's not on the wicket, don't play them, Copeland.
Or the famous two words to use is no comment.
Yes, no comment.
Yeah, because sometimes, people will call you and ask you one question, or two, but then they mold it in with some other stuff, look like it's coming from you. I remember years ago, with Peter Tosh did an interview, and the interviewer asked him, would you perform in South Africa? And Peter said, yes, my people is there, but only if I'm going to perform with my people, right? I'm not going to go otherwise. And if they take out the other part and say, Peter just says, yes, he would perform in South Africa, and they spread that propaganda, So I always remember that when I'm talking to people sometimes, and sometimes I have to try to ask them, because if you ask me one question and then it gone to 10 questions, I don't know what's really happening there. And by that, if anybody's taping you, I'm supposed to tell you that I'm taping you, to for the things you say, because I don't want people misquote me, in any way or form, and so I just wanted to correct that. But
this is a serious season.
I must say that Bunny Wailer, myself, Master Griffiths, and the original Techniques with Slim Smith, and they all went to the same school together. We grew up from we were 5 years of age, right? At Chatola Park School, mini school. Then Chatola Park, Bunny went to All Saints. Myself and Techniques went to Kingston Senior, which is now Kingston Junior Secondary. And then we later met up now when people start to branch out into the singing era. And I remember living in Trenchtown at the time and come off the bus going home, and I stopped in this yard on 2nd Street. And when I look, I say, Neville, right? We don't know, it was not Jabby then, or Bunny Wailer yet, it was just Neville.
Neville.
And when I look inside, I say, Neville, I sing with these people, and I said, what, Neville? When he was at school, he wasn't really singing much at school, he was dancing. He was a fabulous dancer, because me and him used to take the floor in school concert, Chatola Park, right? So that's when I saw him there. And then he told me, yes, they're singing, blah, 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 and everything. I stopped by there every night when they are going home and sit down with them and say, boy, I never singing. So I know that part of the Wailer. I know Neville Livingston. I know Bonnie Livingston. I know Bonnie Whalers. I know Bonnie Whaler. And I know Jabby. And it's all the same person, one person, right? So, my association with him is not just through music, it's from before music. Because his father, my father, and Marsha Griffith's father, right? Mr. Griffiths used to go drinking partner down at Oxford Street across from the police station, Anatole police station, and we used to sit down and drink at night. So it's like a family affair coming up. So Bonnie is somebody I'd known very well from school days. I never knew Peter, right? And I never knew Bob until when I started hearing their songs. But my first encounter with the group was in 1973 when they were on the second leg of the Catch a Fire tour. This is after Bonnie had quit after the first leg in the UK, and Joe Higgs came in to replace Bonnie temporarily, thinking Bonnie would come back. I can remember during those times this thing was flying around Jamaica about him not flying an Iron Bird anymore and all that stuff. But there were so many things that I spoke to him personally to ask him why he left the tour, why he left the group after the first promotional tour in the UK, which was a Catch a Fire tour. And he told me, like I don't read it anywhere, he told me, I spoke to Bob and I spoke to Peter, and I get it from both three of them then, right? That after the tour was finished, they got a financial statement and he looked at it and it's saying that the group owe the record company money. He said to me, how could we owe them money? And it's not them work, it's we work, so it's them owe we. So it simply means at that time they didn't understand what tour support meant, because that's what it is. When you're a new group, your record company will spend money behind it to get you moving, right? So after each tour, they give you a statement. You can go through it to dispel whatever you don't think is right and all that stuff. But you didn't understand that part of it. And he's telling me that, but it's me work, so them owe me for work. I said to him many times that you have to understand sometimes a record company pay a promoter to put you on a bill, because I've been through that already, to put you on a certain bill. I remember when I went to England 1976 with the Diamonds, right? And the Revolutionary with Sly and Light Parks and Nancy Collins. Richard Branson put us on a rock show. And the rock show was Johnny Rotten and the Sex Pistols, And I never.
So they fling orange at thing.
Eggs and tomato came as like we're coming from all sides. Because this is like a Christian, the first time people experience this. They come to see a rock show and them talk about when diamonds run out and say, Natty Dread will never run away. Natty Dread will never run. All I can see is a red thing coming through the ear. And when I realize it's tomato and eggs, but we passed through that because that is some of the things you have to go through as a new group. So as a new group, he didn't understand those part of it. Then and the other thing is that he said he looked at the itinerary. And the itinerary shows some venues in the States, and he's not playing in the venue. He said to me, why a venue must name the Bottom Line? We can't play on a bottom line, And the other venue was like Max Kansas City in New York City. Opening for Bruce Springsteen is one of the greatest things anybody could have welcomed. Playing up at Paul's Mall in Massachusetts is a great thing. And touring with Sly and the Family Stone, who was the biggest funk group in the world with top 10 songs that, myself, dance to the music and all those big hits, But he didn't understand them, because you have to understand, before that Catch a Fire tour, the only time the Wailers came into the US, was in 1971, right? And they played at the Grand Concourse Ballroom. I was living in New York at that time. I was at that show, and they did 2 more shows down in Brooklyn. They used 3 different bands to do 3 different shows then, and John Oates was on the bill with them. So it was in 73 now when I was taken down to the Chelsea Hotel at 23rd Street by a journalist in Jamaica named G. Fitzbartley, because G. Fitzbartley was very instrumental in my career, because he was the one that actually got me to touring and dancing on Soul Train with Johnny Nash. So he used all that accolades that I had now, and he introduced me to Bob at the Chelsea Hotel, when they were playing Max Kansas City. And Bob, as I said before, Bob asked me one question: "What month you born?" I said August. He said, "What date?" The first. He said, "You're a born leader," and that was it. And I joined the crew there and then. So moving around with them now, it was a great experience for me, which is the only time that I've ever had an association with Bob Marley on tour. Because when later on he branched out to Bob Marley and the Wailers, I wasn't there. I was with Peter Tosh and other groups. But it actually started in 1973, and when he heard that I was on the road with Johnny Nash, at that point, Johnny Nash was called the king of reggae. And Johnny Nash was singing some of Bob Marley songs that he covered, and I Can See Clearly Now, and Ernest Smith, Tears on My Pillow, Guava Jelly, and Cupid, and all those songs, because a Black American, he was getting the airplays, but the Jamaican groups, them wasn't getting airplay. So we had to fight to get it there and then. So touring that year, especially with Sly and the Family Stone, they were calling our music the back to front music. Them never hear music like that yet, back to front, And I was wondering why they're using those terms. And I'm sure everybody knew what happened, that by the time we got to the Ice Capade in Las Vegas, right, Sly and Family Stone got up early and took the drive away and left the group stranded in Las Vegas, right? And that is where it almost popped loose, And then some Jamaicans in San Francisco, led by a guy named Gus Brown, who was going college out there, heard about it, and they flew out. Right, they drove out because it wasn't far from Las Vegas, and they drove out and rescued everybody by talking to a gentleman who runs a club, right, named the Metrics, and asked him to put the group on the bill. The man didn't hear of the Wailers yet, but he said he's gonna try. So he kicked out the group that was there and put the Wailers in for 2 days, and then he realized it was great, and then he put them 2 more days. Here is the notice that he put up on the board about the Wailers being there at the Metrics Club, and this was in 1973, right? You can see where he said all the groups that were there is out and replaced by the Wailers. So that was my first exposure and association with Bob Marley.
What was your role at that time, Copeland, in that particular
part of the crew on the road?
Yeah.
Part of the crew on the road, because people like Lee Jaffe, the photographer, was there too, right, on the road. Because Lee Jaffe played a great role in bringing the group into the US. A lot of people may not know it. He had to bring them through Canada, So it was a hell of a work that was done. But at that time, the only song on that people could identify with the Wailers, other from the diaspora people and the Jamaican, was I Shot the Sheriff, which was covered by Eric Clapton. Because people knew that song was written by Bob Marley, and that song was getting a lot of airplay, so that kind of gave the group some kind of recognition. But I have a feeling, though, that when they booked that tour with the Wailers and Sly and the Family Stone, the headline have the right to say who they want on their bill, right? The headline can say, I don't want this group and I don't want that group, because they are the headliners. And I heard it through the grapevine that they thought it was that original group that named the Wailers, which was before our boys took the name Wailers, right? Because, there was a group from 1979, right, named the Wailers. Here they are from Tacoma, Washington, right? And this group has been in existence from 1959. And I think the reason why Coxsone did not release their first album as the Wailers, if you remember, he released it as the Wailing Wailers, because he was a part of the farm work program and he was traveling overseas a lot. And I think he saw that there was a group named the Wailers. So they have been using the Wailing Wailers, the Wailing Rude Boy Wailers, Bob and the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers at Coxsone. So this whole notion of people talking about this Chris Black will mash up the group and call it Bob Marley and the Wailers, this BS. They've been using that even on their own label, Wail and Soul M. If you look on it, you see Bob Marley and the Wailers. And if you listen to 2 interviews, one that Bob did with Neville Willoughby, and Neville Willoughby asked him that how come the group is being called Bob Marley and the Wailers? And Bob's answer was, boy, I never tell the one to call like that, but them just call like that. I couldn't understand that interview. And Peter have another one when Roger Steffen took out the Wailing Soul and label and showed it to him and said, but, he said, well, that's when the efforts start. That's all you could get, So they've been using that name from ever since. So, they were rescued. Then Capital Radio came in, did some sessions. At that time, I jumped back on a Greyhound bus. I head back to New York, because when I see stranded thing going on, I says, boy, it's better I leave quick, because I had a 9-to-5 job in New York working in the diamond industry at that time, but I could get time off to do anything I wanted to do because my company knew that I was involved in show business. So anything I'm going to do when I start going to Soul Train on weekend time, they give me the time off to go. And then I come back in New York. I was like a big star walking on 47th Street in the diamond industry, and people calling me Mr. Reggae Man because they see me on Soul Train, which was the biggest TV show around in that time. So that was my christening moment with, starting out with them. Then I worked with Peter individually, and I worked with Bunny individually. So I was able to capture the group's history and the individual's history, so to speak. And I was privileged and honored to be at a lot of historic events, like the One Love Peace concert, the Smile Jamaica concert, Bob opening for the Commodores, at Madison Square Garden. So most of these historic events, I was privileged and honored to be there because I see things in my own eyes. I don't have to read it in paper. And that's why when I see people publish incorrect things, I always like to correct them because the young ones and the ones who are just coming up in the business will read these things and believe that this is the way it went. So I always like to correct things. It's just 2 days ago, I was talking with Audrey, the dancehall queen. And she said to me, boy, Mr. Forbes, I like to read your article because I learn a lot. Because when I say confusion thing and you come up and you say it, you always have something to authenticate it. Either a picture of something at the event. So that's one of the things I like to do. Correct and educate and illuminate and eradicate the negatives.
If I may at this point, Copeland, because you have, listen, people, you're online and you want to get a feel. This is the man who, this is the first, God, we have a massive library here of, written material on reggae music, Jamaica music. But this, if you ask me, are the Bible this, right? And Copeland, me not big you up because you're on the show. Me big you up because the thing it is the Bible. Here is a man who has been in the trenches, right? You want to know more about that early period of the Mali tours? Reggae My Life Is.
I'll say this, Richard. I said it last week, and I'll say it again today. What is amazing is your presence of mind of picking up memorabilia, which showed that, that you were there.
Yeah, you're right, God, because that Matrix poster, or flyer, if you will. Can you remember? It didn't have no picture on it, just
like a contract.
It's a contract, right? No, that is 51 years ago, right? 51 years, and the Copeland of the document in them hand that you have kept over all these years. So,
but something, it's not just that. Here I have a copy of the recording contract that they signed, the Wailers signed with Island in 1972, 73. See the three of them signature down the bottom there. And if you look at this corner over here, you see Bob Marley and the Wailers. So they signed under the moniker of Bob Marley and the Wailers with Island Records. What should have happened then? But you can't blame them. They were young and inexperienced. They have a registered company named Tough Gang Records, right? Here is a copy of their registration, Tough Gang Records. They should have signed Tough Gang Records for services of the Wailers. That means to say, if somebody leaves the group, somebody should pass away, all shares will already be in place because you already have a company registered with the three fists on it, and all shares are already set and breaking up. But you have to understand at that point, they didn't really have professional management until Don Taylor actually came around in 1974.
That's a very important point, Copeland. And I think something that is missing when we hear people make the argument that, producer this and, the famous one with Chris Blackwell, treat the boy them bad and whatever. Our reality is that in 1973, only about 20% of Jamaicans could have properly read and write, right? 80% of the Jamaicans barely go to school, not just to get any kind of business education. These are youngsters who, at 14 and 15-year-old, them gone in the music. Just like how you are dance from your 11-year-old, right? Nobody never sit down with you and show you a contract and thing. Just for those times, God, you agree.
Not even show a contract, how to negotiate.
Yeah, nobody know anything about that. You get a chance to get your voice on a record.
And on the radio.
And you're on the radio and you're getting some tours and some concerts and so on. That is you are now in the music business. There was no transfer of knowledge as to this is what the business is all about. Granted, over time, we are now in the dispensation where people understand that music is a big money.
Right, it's a business. I always said it's 80% business and 20% entertainment, because a lot of our artists, even up to today, when they said they're signed to, I can tell you, Dennis Brown was never signed to A&M. Dennis Brown was signed to Joe Gibbs Recording Globe, and Joe Gibbs Recording Globe had a contract with A&M. Luciana was not signed to Island. Luciana was signed to Exterminator, and Exterminator had a contract between Exterminator and Island, right? And it goes on. Quite a few groups like that, at the same kind of situation. And sometimes they don't really read the contracts. Then, as you said, them just sign, them see a money, forget a money, and that's basically it. And then later on now, these things come to haunt them. Some of them don't even know about publishing. And most record companies do a thing, they call it cross-collateralization, where they cross the publishing agreement with the recording agreement. That means to say, if they don't recoup money they spend from you from touring, they can take it from your publishing. Which most groups don't know that you can pick up your own publishing.
Hold that point, Copeland. We're up on a break. We'll come right back.
Yeah. Okay.
Famous song, I Shot the Sheriff.
Yeah, Copeland spoke about that extensively early on. Bob wrote the song. Eric Clapton did it over.
It was on the Burning album.
Yeah. Clapton did it over, and basically, sometime when the stars align with you, and to a large extent, this is what happened with Marley. People don't realize that Marley boss. The Wailers boss, 63, 64, right? And they never really, in 63, 64 was Simado, that's all.
Yeah.
And it would have been...
He had a single before, One Cup of Coffee.
Yeah, but that's him as a solo artist. But as the group, the Wailers, big hit, Simado. And it would take them another 10 years before the world, if you will, and Jamaica to a large extent, really started to pay attention. And all of that came with that Catch a Fire album, which was followed up with Burning and what the other one named, Talking Blues, the thing. So what a lot of people are unaware of is that the Wailers was out there for a while. We became more aware of them in the 1970s period, but they were in the trenches like most of the way Jamaica music started out. First of all, the music couldn't even play on the radio at the time.
Yeah, so that album was Natty Dread, Richard.
The Natty Dread?
Yeah.
Right. So it took Natty Dread album because Natty Dread, yes, that's what really put them on the map locally in Jamaica.
And the Rastaman Vibration.
But on the international scene, it was Catch a Fire, right? By the time Catch Fire in Jamaica, Natty Dread was out. And in fact, one of my first Marley album I bought was the same Natty Dread with him, and Burning, where you saw him I think they had repackaged Catch a Fire too with him here just start to turn. Just a
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yardmedia.com where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.